So the PlayStation 5 reveal, what did you think in a nutshell?
PlayStation 5 reveal. I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting. It was nice to see the new software that's going to be available. In
When you say you thought it was good, were you happy with what you saw as in the games, or you just liked how clean it was, that it wasn't at a live event or something? How did any of that sort of play into it? Because normally these are at big events, aren't they, with crowds and everything? Am I right in
yeah,
thinking
normally
that?
this is probably the first time in many years that Sony have not been to an E3. But I think I think they were not going to go to E3 anyway. I think it was a lot like pretty much E3 was not doing very well last year.
Yeah, I'd heard a few things about that. Not with Sony, but maybe with Xbox or one of the other big companies.
Yeah, I think in general it's just the standards have just been slipping, and because they're basically at one point they stopped the public going in,
Right.
so it made it a lot easier for like journalists to actually play the games.
Okay.
But and then they were like, well, we can bring some public in, and then what we can do is like have a VIP section for just the journalists and stuff. So most of them don't actually they just stick to the VIP zones. But yeah, no, I don't think that it was it was gonna happen anyway. Even with like with the coronavirus, it's just it's not been good. But I did like the this conference in terms of the games they showed, the software. I'm not really sure about the actual look of the PS5, but in terms of the software and the games, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm not a huge PlayStation fan. We've said this before. I've not really played much PlayStation since the pretty much the original, and I only used the PS2 to play San Andreas, really. So for me, it was very interesting because the games had this certain feel. In the same way that if you look at Nintendo games and the Nintendo games feel very much like a game for Nintendo. A lot of the games really did feel like PlayStation games. And obviously they're all exclusive, so that kind of makes sense. But I don't know if I would say the same about Xbox exclusives, that they feel inherently Xboxy.
Yeah, the
So I'm guessing that comes out of the fact that obviously, like Sony and Nintendo, they're both Japanese, so there's this sort of culture that comes into that. A huge amount. I say a huge. Three, four, five of those games that I saw were like in the realm of anime-esque, either in art style or story style, or just that sort of vague genre. Not exactly games or a look to games that you kind of see on the Xbox, really.
for me though, like seeing those games, I kind of tuned out because it just didn't really interest me any of those games. But that seemed like that when they showed those games, it was like, oh, it's just indie games. I was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, see, I don't know how many of those games are like brand new games, or if they were like part of a franchise. But actually, yeah, you're right. I could say I do see a lot of that style of game on Steam. Actually, obviously, Steam is a PC gaming is probably easier to build games for as an indie. But yeah,
What I found very good at first, and then slowly I just got disappointed and more disappointed, was when they first showed off the games.
yeah,
They were actually showing gameplay as well as the trailers, and I was like, yes, get in, right. Even if it looked glitchy and some of it like a little bit laggy, I can accept that because it's just still a beta version. But at least they showed
yeah.
some gameplay.
Some of it said it was like recorded on obviously the pre-production PS5. I remember seeing that on one of the games.
Yeah.
So obviously they haven't got the full power of the console.
Well, they haven't.
Full stability, or it's not exactly. It might not be that it's not stable yet. Either the software or the hardware is not fully stable that they're developing these games on. But they still look good.
Yeah, they haven't ironed out all the bugs, but that was that was awesome. But then slowly, like you keep watching the conference, and then it just slowly just get CGI trailers, and there was no actual gameplay, and I was just
Yeah, so I got through about half an hour, and I got up to Astro Playroom.
yeah.
And that's where I sort of said, right, I'm bored of game trailers, and sort of just started looking
Yeah, so you skip forward.
for anything that wasn't about games, because I kind of wanted. There wasn't as much in there about the PlayStation 5 as I thought there might be, so I was a bit disappointed in that. I was hoping we might see more than just how it looks, like maybe some of the operating system, some of the stuff about the audio.
Oh yeah.
Like it said it's got 3D audio, but they didn't explain anything about it or, how games might be using it. So
The cool thing I saw when they revealed the PS5 was when they revealed you can get a headset and you can get the eye camera toy with it.
well, oh yes, I did see that. Sorry, when you said headset, I was still thinking VR, but yeah, no, the Bluetooth headphones. What do you think PlayStation VR is going to look like on this system? Because I was looking for that. Like I was looking for PSVR, but they didn't have anything for it.
Yeah, well, they haven't mentioned anything yet about VR, but I suspect like the current VR system might work with the PS5. I don't know about that, but
Possibly, because I would expect this system to have VR compatibility and capabilities like out the box, given that it's already on the PS4. So it would be a bit weird if it doesn't. If we have to wait for new hardware for that. I feel like it should be coming out at the same time. Genuinely, I might be looking at this system as a transition device. Like, it might be that I get this system with some VR gear, and that's how I sort of do VR stuff. Is because when I did the PS4 VR, that felt very good, and hopefully whatever they do for this system will be the same, if not better. And I think that would probably be good enough for me. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed I didn't see anything about that. And just, yeah, I'm hoping... Is there another event? Have they said anything about a future event when they actually sort of like do a technical overview on the PlayStation 5?
no, I think this conference was mainly about the games. I think
Right, okay.
I presume they're gonna obviously they're gonna have to have some sort of user interface where they show off the user interface, how it works, and show off the.
When are we expecting this to be on sale? Christmas?
I suspect probably about November-ish time.
Oh, it's ages away. Oh, you mean on sale? I don't know. I just think.
Have you seen the prices though, like the leaks and stuff?
No, but what are we expecting? About $500-600?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's about right, though. Like, if you consider how much the PS4 was, and then add inflation onto that, and just so I'm not surprised by that sort of price.
Basically, what the history tells us of what they used to do, they used to like the PlayStation 1, they used to sell for a loss. So
yeah,
they would actually make it. They would make the actual PlayStations far more than they actually sell. So, but they would just think, well, if we can sell enough games, then we can make our money, even if we make a loss on the console. And that was pretty much a winning formula, because they like the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2, they managed to just outsell. They made like 250 million copies of the PS2. So
what did they? What was the PlayStation 1 up against? Because the N64 was a bit before it, wasn't it? It didn't have a direct. Maybe the Dreamcast.
Not well. The Dreamcast came after the PlayStation. It was the Sega Saturn. It would be the Sega Saturn.
Right. Okay.
And well, in terms of like, and then the PS3 that came out, and that was like probably the same price as what it's going to be now, like $500-600. Eventually, it should go down in price eventually.
Yeah, it'll go down. I mean, yeah. So like we bought, obviously the Xbox One came out at like 400 and something, and yeah, I know that was with the Kinect, but even if you take 150 off for the Kinect, that's still 300 quid, and we got ours for just under 200 quid with 2 games included. So they will go down. We got ours 5 years into its run. The interesting thing will be, let's say, so you got 2 versions of it. You got the optical drive one, and the digital edition. Now, of course, one reason why people are speculating that it could be less than 600 quid is if you have to buy, if you buy the digital edition, you can only buy games through the PlayStation Store, and let's put aside the CD Keys website. I don't know if you can do that on console, but let's put aside those ones for now. So you can only buy the games at a full price. You can't buy used or anything. So they could drop the price by like 200 quid, and they'll still make more money over the optical version because people are paying more per game.
Yeah.
Even if they get the same amount of games as they would have with the disc version. And the other thing is, obviously, if they do, which they, whatever their Game Pass equivalent is, they'll get a good amount of income from people just getting the Netflix of games for the PlayStation platform. So that would be sort of the only reason I would expect, that would be the only reason that I would expect to see the price be less than like 500 quid. But otherwise, yeah, I would expect it to be 500 quid or more. And then by the time you've got all the extra bits and 2 games, because you're not going to buy a PlayStation console without any games. I have done that. I bought the Xbox 360 and I didn't have any games for it for like 3 days because it was coming in the post. So I could only play whatever demos were, the free demos on there. That was terrible. Like, there's nothing worse than having a games console and nothing to play on it. But yeah. So maybe we'll see something like that, where it's sort of like subsidised a little bit by the expectation of how you purchase the games, but kind of doubt that, to be honest.
Well, Sony are pretty clever. They've probably looked at the data in which they have for the PS4, and they realised like most people have just like they started buying their games digitally. So they're like, well, why don't we make a console for those people, and we can also make a console for the people who support physical media. The problem I see is like the people who support physical media is if the digital console takes off and everyone buys the digital console. If you're Sony, why would you want to keep making the physical version of it? So why would you want to keep in the disc drive, the 4K?
Well, not everyone has high-speed internet. Not everyone wants to download 50 gigabytes. For me, that would take best part of like 3 or 4 hours.
But you're doing it anyway, though. You're doing it anyway because most games you put the disc into your console and it just downloads the game and it stores it to your hard drive or SSD in this case.
No, but the difference is when I install a game off of off an optical disc, it'll copy 2/3 of it from the disc and it'll get the updates, but it only gets the update from online. It's still installing the other 60 gigabytes from the disc. So if you do have a slow internet speed, or you can't just leave your PlayStation running overnight, doing huge downloads because it takes that long to download, then for some people that might be a legitimate reason for having the discs. And obviously the used game market, but
yeah, well, that's they're trying to kill that off, aren't they?
I way prefer not having to get up and change the disc, and I know that sounds really lazy and everything, but it's nice to just scroll through your games and hit play and not have to worry about is the right disc in, is the right cartridge in.
Yeah,
because the Switch is the worst about this as well, because it's not even a disc, it's like in a slot hidden somewhere. And we've got if you've got doors on your gaming console, the TV unit and everything, that just makes it even worse. And I know this is like the worst of first world problems, but there's nothing better than just being able to hit play and the game plays. So if we do get a PlayStation 5, 100% we're getting the digital edition.
Really?
Yeah, like. I don't
like
the optical drive.
So but say 2 or 3 years into the console, right?
Yeah.
and say, you know what they're going to do? They're going to remaster The Last of Us Part 2. Okay? That's
Yeah.
just come out on PS4.
Right.
And they're going to remaster it, say like in a year's time, right? And you buy the digital version. And then there's so many outlets. So the first outlet sells it for like 50 quid. And then another outlet's like, well, we're going to we're going to drop the price and we'll sell it for 45.
Right.
But then there's you with the digital version, and you'll be stuck on £55 regardless on. So if you're happy to pay that extra 10 quid, 15 quid,
But that's what I just said.
well, it's up to the person. But for me, it would be.
Yeah, I would rather pay that mere percentage more, which isn't that much, to have the convenience to not having to deal with discs. Like, you've got to store them somewhere. You've got to look after them, because if they get too scratched, then you've lost your copy anyway. They make noises in the system. And, I don't... Even buying used games, particularly for current generation consoles, you don't save that much. So, like, we bought... for the Switch, we bought the Pokemon Eevee.
Yeah.
And it was like 10 quid cheaper. And I'm like... That doesn't make sense to me. Like, okay, like if you're buying Xbox 360 games, which are 60p, then that's fine. Buy the disc by all means. That's a 80% discount, 99% discount. But when you're talking about 10%, 15%, even 20%, that's not worth everything else that then comes from that small saving. Like, if I could pay £10 now to upgrade my DVD copy of Red Dead to a digital, I would. Whereas now, but the only alternative I have is to buy it digitally on sale sometime, or get it on a PC or something like that, which would be at some version of full price. So it's all down to the person. Our consoles, they're in a TV unit. We've got a coffee table almost immediately in front of it, so it is genuinely quite awkward to any time you have to physically interact with them. And it's partially it is laziness, I know, but that's just... I would just rather pay 10 quid extra and just not have to deal with it. Ever.
You've only got... See, I still don't know how this is going to work, and I'm not sure if it got explained, so maybe you might know a little bit about this, but if you've got 825 gigabytes of storage, I know what you're going to say, Lee. You're just going to say you can just delete the game and then download another game.
You don't have to delete the game, but systems already do this, where...
If you run out of space, you're going to run out of space very, very quickly. And then if you've got digital versions of the games, then you have to delete the game. And then if you want to play again... But you just said the internet speed is so bad.
Reinstalling from disk, is the same as reinstalling from the internet. At least for me, I'm not saying this is right for everyone. If you do legitimately have a download speed of 10 meg, then yeah, you're going to want the optical disc version. But to be honest, like, the read speed of optical drives isn't, it's not. You only need like 20 meg internet to be greater than that. In fact, hang on, let's fact check that. Let's say it's a Blu-ray.
Well, we know that it's going to install the games to the SSD, because the majority of the games use the SSD.
All of them have to be. Even now, even on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, you have to install the game before you can play it. Like, the disc, once you've installed the game, the disc is purely for DRM. That's all it's for. That's why I don't like discs, because you don't play the game off the disc. It's just for DRM, and that's not...
Okay.
Well, it is semi-safe, because obviously if you lose your account and everything, you've lost all your games, but...
How about this argument? Recent events have happened. Certain things have been blocked or taken off.
What do you mean?
So, a good example...
certain games?
Certain films.
Right.
But this could happen for games. So, like a film called Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
That's been taken off Netflix and I think another streaming site. And now the Blu-ray for the physical copy is like £100. you could be at risk. Say like if I bought a game physically, and say there's something in the game.
No, I don't think that argument holds up because at the end of the day, right, what you're going to say is if you got the optical version, you can play it.
Yeah.
That's not true because DRM, they can still block the optical disc from playing if they wanted to, just as much as if you have the game installed digitally. So I don't think there's, whether you have the optical version or the digital version, because of DRM, you can either play both of them once the game has been removed, or you will not be able to play either of them once the game has been removed. Because every game essentially requires DRM to play now, doesn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I think you're spot on there.
And you'll have, 1 month in offline mode to kind of get the most out of that game, or whatever those timeout times are. But yeah, because, if you have the Blu-ray of Gone with the Wind, you can literally play that forever because there's no DRM, there's no active DRM, it's only passive. But with games, because they have this active DRM on them, they can still stop you from playing those video games, even if you have the optical version. So, that argument will kind of fall on its face in that regard.
Well, yeah, it seems to what you're saying is actually logical because even if you put the physical disc in it, it still detects what it is and downloads it from a server.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So
they're just going to detect that, oh no, you can't have this. This game cannot be played on this platform. But what do you think in terms of the actual look of the PS5? Do you like it? Do you think it's too big? Do you think it looks like a router or a router?
I would never say it's too big because you're talking about powerful software, and I say powerful in air quotes because obviously I've got a gaming PC that's probably I don't want to say more powerful, but everything's relative, and it's more powerful than the Xbox One is anyway. Despite being,
I don't think your computer is as powerful as the PS5 though. Wouldn't say that.
Well, I just said relative. My computer is more powerful than the current gen console.
Yeah.
So it requires. The silicon is obviously custom, so they can get away with a bit like what Apple does. They know how much cooling capacity this thing needs to run at 100% or whatever. Peak performance. So they can do that, and as long as they are doing that correctly, and we're not going to end up with like the red ring of death on the Xbox original 360. Then I'm okay with the size of it. It doesn't have to be small. I don't really care how it looks because our consoles are behind a grill. So they're not invisible, but they're not entirely visible either. So, we just got like, I don't know, it's just a metal mesh. So it's got holes in it so you can see through, and like your controllers still work through it better than wood. But it's not like pure glass where you can see right through it and see everything. So I'm not going to be looking at it every day. If they have it in black, then that's the colour we'll be getting because Jen prefers it. But I'm not too bothered really. It looks all right, but if it was in the living room, it won't go on top of the console. If it's in the gaming room, it might be on top of the desk. I mean, to be honest, it kind of looks like my internet router. But not in a bad way. Just it's got lights on it, and so does my Wi-Fi router.
Yeah, it looks okay, but I would say it's a step down from the PS4 look.
Really, the PS4 looked boring and bland.
But there you go. So people have
It was a wedge of cheese, and it wasn't. So the Xbox.
It's better than PS3's.
Yeah.
What was
Bulge.
it? What was that guy's name? George Foreman grill.
Yeah. So I know the Xbox isn't interesting either, but it is just a square. But obviously, all PlayStations have been. In fact, every PlayStation release has been some form of weird shape. The PlayStation was a rectangle with a circle in it. The PS2 was, it was a skyscraper. Someone. Is it the Sears Tower in Chicago that literally looks like a PlayStation 2?
Yeah.
Then the PS3 obviously went, it looks like a George Foreman grill or a few variants of that. PS4 kind of looks like a NASCAR that's really stupidly wide. The This is probably the most interesting out of all the PlayStation so far.
Yeah, like you said, I think a lot of people, would benefit it being black instead of white.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if it doesn't come in black, but I did see on Reddit there was an RGB version.
Yeah.
Where they've made it black
Yeah.
and then obviously change the blue lights to RGB, and then every PC gamer would buy that. I was concerned at first that it was going to be a upright only console, but apparently the curves are in such a way that it will go sideways perfectly fine. So if it does that, then I'll be happy. Actually, just thought about something. Speaking of PlayStation VR, it's got a USB-C port on the front. Because I was thinking there's no HDMI on the front for PSVR, but that might be how it does VR. Is you've got a USB-A and there's a USB-C socket right next to it. So that might be how it connects to the VR headset. Just speculation, those connectors are right there and they're right next to each other, so it'd be silly to do it any other way.
If Sony were actually clever, they would actually concentrate making PlayStation VR 2, trying to make it wireless.
I don't think so. Maybe, and maybe they will, but I don't know. I think the expectation of console gaming is that you might be more couch based, with it. So all the VR games I did on the PS4 were I didn't have to stand up to do them. Like I could do all of them sat down just fine. The expectation of it's not about being able to move your body. It was just about being able to move your head, and with the Move controllers and being able to do that sort of stuff. So I don't think they need to worry about going wireless, because there's a lot more downsides to having a wireless headset in terms of battery pack and increased latency. But I know what's the Oculus. That's why I've heard good things about
Quest,
it.
The Quest, I think.
The Quest,
yeah.
But I don't think that's where the PlayStation VR is kind of aiming for. It's not like PC gaming VR, at least, anyway.
Pretty much. What games were you actually surprised to see? Because I was actually surprised to see Resident Evil 8, and I
didn't get that far. What did I see? No, you're not spoiling anything. I just didn't get that far into it. It got boring.
It did a little bit.
So the interesting ones were, Gran Turismo.
Yeah, that looked good.
Can we just talk about GTA? Can we talk about GTA 5? That annoyed me.
You and GTA 5. Go on.
No, but they're like, Grand Theft Auto has graced all generations. I'm like, what? You haven't released Grand Theft Auto for the PlayStation 4. You just ported the PS3 version for it. Like, you're skipping a console generation, and whatever 6 is going to be, whenever that comes out, basically GTA 5 coming to the PlayStation 5 in 2021 means that 6 is going to be at least 2024.
They're doing,
if not 2025.
They're doing a Skyrim. They're doing a Skyrim.
Yeah, like a 10, 11, 12 year wait for a game.
Well, no, it looks like
it's not like they don't have the money to hire more people to get the game out in that sort of same similar timeframes as they did before. It just blows my mind the way these companies are like timelines and everything. But
the thing is, you got to think of it as a business sense. If the game is still making money online, people are still buying stuff from the marketplace.
Yeah, I know.
They want to keep it relevant. So you could see like Rocket League on PS5.
But look at the money sense from here. GTA 4 cost 100 million to make, and I don't know what the time frame was, but I read this article before GTA 5 was released, and by that point it had made $400 million. So basically they had turned $100 million into 400. Well, they turned it into 300 because obviously you subtract it. The numbers for GTA 5 were something like 600 and a billion. It's like, well, if they do that every 10 years, spend a little bit more money, hire twice the amount of people, spend a little bit more money, and do it every 6 years. You'd make loads more money having the gaps shorter than you would having them longer, but I don't know, I'm not a businessman.
That's probably a different topic for another day or another.
No, I know. That's why I'm just about to bring it around. But I was just slightly annoyed that GTA 5 was the starting event for a console that is literally going to be almost released almost 8 years after the game came out. Like, who cares about GTA 5 anymore? No one does, unless you got it free the other week on Epic. But yeah, Gran Turismo. So, have you played Gran Turismo recently?
I was really big into it on the PS3 on Gran Turismo 5, and I played a little bit of Gran Turismo 6. I've not touched any Gran Turismo on the PS4. I had some.
Have you done Forza as well?
Not really, no. Not
okay.
Xbox.
I just wanted to know if you'd done both of them. See, I've done Forza on the 360. I think that was Motorsport 3, and then Forza Horizons. Yeah, I guess they're both just the same game, aren't they?
I think
very true to real life simulation, get driving.
Well, I think
it looks interesting, and I was wondering about it would be cool to get like a driving wheel and pedals and that, but
yeah, it's going to cost you a lot of money, man.
I know. I had a look. The Logitech ones are like £250 just for the wheel, and if you want to add in the shifter and the stand, the adjustable stand, that's another £100. So that's like £350. Just for that, just for something that you can only use for like 1 or 2 games. But people enjoy these things. You've seen people's flight simulator setups.
Yeah. No, I thought it looked quite good. I suspect it's going to do well. It's competing against, like you said, Forza Horizon, which has been very successful recently, and it's probably I'm only guessing it, but from hearsay, I think it's actually better than the previous Gran Turismo games. So
yeah,
I think they're trying to make that mark again and say, look, Gran Turismo is back on the PS5. Should be interesting. If I do get a PS5, that's probably one of the games I would pick up.
Yeah. Okay. So basically the only games I really recognised were Sackboy. Did I see Ratchet and Spanner?
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank.
I've never played them. Oh, obviously not. I haven't got a PlayStation. But kind of recognised it. There was where's that interesting one? Where is that game? I can't see it in my list. It's Destruction Derby. What was that game called? I don't know what it was called. But
that was like one of the new IPs.
Yeah,
wasn't
it looked
like Rocket League a little bit. It had like a Rocket League feel to it for some reason.
Well, I thought it was going to be Final Fantasy. No, not Final Fantasy. What's that fighting game? Street Fighter. What? I thought it was just a 3D. I thought it was just a 3D trailer for Street Fighter, because the way they were sort of like showing off all the contenders and that, and then they suddenly got into cars, and then they were like driving at each other, and it just brought back memories of this game that I used to play on the computer, like back in 2003 or something. And it was a Destruction Derby game, and obviously that was like real life, serious Destruction Derby with mud and grime and everything breaking, and this is all like ultra modern and futuristic and shiny and everything. I thought it was quite funny how people were like jumping out the cars and running away. I kind of hope that's real and something you can do. Like if your car is destroyed, you can like get out and either get a new car or steal someone else's car. That actually looks like an interesting gameplay mechanic, which probably doesn't exist, knowing game designers, because they don't always think about the fun things. But that's one game that I would be looking forward for. That death game where she kept dying. That one looks a bit interesting.
But that's the thing, I don't think they showed any real gameplay. It was just a trailer, so you don't really know what the actual gameplay is, what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
But you didn't get to it, but I was very surprised it came up. I actually didn't realise. So you haven't watched the Resident Evil trailer, have you?
No.
So basically, it's like Bela Lugosi, the vampire.
I know nothing about Resident Evil. I've only played whatever Resident Evil was on the demo 1 disc on the original PlayStation.
But
Just
what I'm saying,
throwing that out there.
Have you seen like Van Helsing?
The film?
Yeah.
Yes. TV series, no.
No, the film. It's basically Van Helsing, but in Resident Evil style.
Okay.
So
that could be interesting.
You got werewolves, and I swear to God, I watched this trailer. I was like, I was paying attention, and at the end when they reveal the title, and it says Resident Evil 8, but I didn't really take any notice, and then I watched like a video, like a catch up things, talking about the event, and they said, oh, Resident Evil 8 was revealed. I was like, what? Really? I must have missed it.
Oh, right. So because it was so different,
yeah,
you kind of missed it.
It's completely... There's like the zombies... Yeah. It's gone back... You played Resident Evil 4. Oh, sorry, you haven't played it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you just said you haven't... You've seen it, though, haven't you? You might have seen it, like, in the woods and stuff.
Resident Evil has no resonance in my mind, really. Sorry.
That's fine. But... It looked good. It looked good. Like the some of it did look a bit laggy for some reason, even if it was a trailer.
Well, I mean, actually, I think part of that's just down to the stream because
that's another point. The stream was terrible. It was so blocky.
Yeah, I mean that's YouTube, but there was actually one part where it failed.
Yeah.
Like it just stopped, and I didn't get the name of it, but I got the guy's surname. I can't find it in my notes now, but it was interesting because I just had to fast forward it till it looked like it was playing again because it just stopped for like 5 minutes or something. But
yeah,
YouTube streaming and the blockiness, I think that's just life with YouTube streaming. I wonder if a Twitch version of the stream might have been better quality or something. I don't know.
But one of the games I was quite excited for is Horizon Zero Dawn 2, but it's not actually called Horizon Zero. It's called something else. I just can't remember the name.
Yeah, I did see that. I saw something that looked like it could be that game, but I didn't
near the end
stick around for it when I was fast forwarding to the end.
It looked okay. I've still haven't completed the first game. It's the guys who made the Killzone. If you ever played the Killzone games,
right?
It looks good. It looks like they didn't have like their top exclusives. They had Ratchet and Clank, Sackboy. They did have. You ever played Oddworld?
No.
You never played Oddworld. They had Oddworld, but I think that's going to be multiplayer. I don't think that's going to be exclusive. So that's about like these like little creatures, and they.
Oh no, that was Soulstorm I was looking at. That one looked interesting. Soulstorm. I wrote down Gollum meets Star Wars. It's the one where I couldn't quite work it out. It's quite brutal in a sort of like a Borderlands kind of way, where you're controlling these guys and you're doing puzzles and that, but they just keep dying, and when they die, they like guts splatter everywhere and everything like that. Do you know what I mean?
That might have been
where he had the guy had like he had plasters or tape on his face, and he had to like rip them off, and everyone died or something.
That might have been Oddworld.
Oh, I thought it was called I wrote down Soulstorm. Maybe it was Oddworld Soulstorm.
That's probably the game we're talking about.
Oddworld might be the franchise, and Soulstorm was.
I didn't really. The thing is,
yes, that is the same game. Yeah.
I didn't. For me, I don't really take note of the names. I'm just like, oh, it's Oddworld. Like I recognise,
right?
Because I'm pretty much just so.
Well, I don't know them, so I just went with what I just took one of the words I saw on the screen. I didn't know which one was the franchise and that. But yeah, that one looks quite fun. So that might be one that I would pick up if I could spend 800 quid on one of these systems one day.
For me, I probably would wait for a slim version.
Yeah, like I've never bought a first gen console. Like I had the Xbox 360 Slim, the Xbox One Slim. there's a part of me that feels like, by that point they've got rid of the Red Ring of Death, they've got rid of the hardware issues of the first gen, and that's probably what we will end up doing with whether we get the 5 or the Series X.
Xbox is different. Like I've bought the Xbox stuff. I've always been a PlayStation guy. Even when the PS3 wasn't doing very well, I bought it pretty much the first time I can get my hands on it when the day it launches, or even a few days. I never buy a slim console or anything. But I think this time I think I'm gonna wait for a slim version of this and maybe wait for a price cut. Probably, I'm not sure if the Xbox Series X, if it delivers in terms of backwards compatibility and allowing you to play all your games. And that's the thing, they didn't say anything about backwards compatibility, did they, for the PS5? I think they are going to...
Like I said, it wasn't that kind of event though, was it?
But they could have mentioned just some things maybe oh, by the way guys, it will play all of your PS4 games. They could have just said, had 2 minutes worth of, just don't worry, it's going to play all your PS4 games. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to play your PS1, PS2 or PS3, but don't worry, it'll play your PS4 games. And people would have been happy.
Probably more likely to play your PS3 games than your PS4 if it has to emulate things.
That's the PS3, it would be very hard.
It's very hard, but obviously it's that much... Oh, hello Siri. It's obviously that much more powerful than the PS4. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
The way it all scales with each generation, it's more likely to play 1 and 2, 1, 2 and 3 than it is likely to do 4. Not that it wouldn't be able to. It depends how native it can play PS4 games, or if it's having to emulate it, doesn't it?
That's the problem, because the PS3's architecture is completely alien.
Hang on. Isn't it PowerPC on the PS3?
It has the cell processor.
Okay.
That's why the PS3 didn't do very well, because it was very hard to develop for.
Oh no, hang on. But so that is a PowerPC. Now what's the PS4? Maybe that's PowerPC as well. No. So right now, genuinely, I think they might be able to do the PS3, but not the PS4, because the PlayStation 4 CPU is an x86-64 CPU. The PlayStation 3 is a PowerPC CPU, and did I not hear someone, if not you, say that the PlayStation 5 chip is going to be a PowerPC module? Oh no, it's AMD. Then it could be anything. If it's got to emulate x84, that could be just as difficult as trying to emulate PowerPC. So,
well, who knows that? Maybe they can do it, but there's a reason why they don't want to do it, because they just want you to rebuy the same games. Who knows? But at least, I don't know how that'll work. I think they'll be pretty cool if you have a PlayStation count on the PS3, and say you buy if you buy a PS1 game on the PS3 and you can play the PS1 games, and if you buy it on the PS4, you should be able to play your PS1 games. And then if you buy it on the PS5, I think if they did a digital store where you could buy the games instead of putting in the disc, they might do that kind of option.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing with the PlayStation 1 is that your Apple Watch could probably emulate it. So, I suspect it could do that without... Even if it was inefficient, it would have no problem with it. Obviously, with the PS3 and PS4, if it's not efficient at emulating it, it's not going to be a good experience. So it will be interesting to see how they do it and if they do it. But then if they just do it on a game by game basis.
We'll have to wait and see. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work, because people will be like, well, if you're going to port the PS4
it's not
version...
for you and me to know how it works. It's for them and their engineers and their software engineers, isn't it?
If you've got a PS... I know that you haven't got a PS4, but if you did have a PS4 and you had a bunch of games and you decided to keep your games, because some people were like, well, I might as well just sell these to then save up to get a PS5, But say if you kept your PS4 games, but you sold your PS4 console, because then you thought, PS5 is going to play PS4 games. But then you would not get the digital version because obviously you can't put the disc into the console. So for those people who want backwards compatibility, they would need to go for the physical version, I suppose.
Well, you can either do physical or digital. Like if I say I've got Portal 2 on the 360, and when I signed into the Xbox One with my Microsoft account, the game was just there, ready to play. Like it was literally the first game that got installed to the system because it was 10 gigabytes versus all the Xbox One games being 50.
But you have to have the digital version of that.
That's what I'm saying. So if you sold all your PlayStation 4 games, you have no right to play them on the PlayStation 5.
Of course.
But if you bought them digitally on the PlayStation 4, and Sony give you the ability to play them on the PS5, then of course you're going to have them digitally. Like, I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
Well, all I'm saying is that for people who want backwards compatibility and they have physical versions of their games, they were going to need to buy the physical PS5. But if you...
Oh, I see. Well, yes. Yeah, obviously.
But then the problem is, it's like, then you're kind of like, well, the thing is, you have a choice, don't you? So at least they've given you the choice. At least they haven't given you just a digital version and said, well, it's backwards compatible, but you're going to have to rebuy all your games.
Yeah.
Or if you own a digital version, at least they've given you the choice.
I have seen someone say about the digital edition being cheaper on account of the optical drive not being present. But
makes sense.
I think no, it doesn't really. How much does a Blu-ray drive cost?
$20, $20 quid.
$20. Okay, I thought they were 50. Because I'm pretty sure they're about $50. Like if you want to buy a USB one for your computer or something.
It probably depends on a company, though, a company basis.
Right. Yeah. Who made the Blu-ray player?
Sony.
There you go. What are you paying for when you buy a Blu-ray drive?
A 4K Blu-ray drive, don't forget.
No, but what are you paying for? You're not paying for hardware. What you're paying for is a license. All DVD drives that are bought have to pay a license. So the hardware cost of a Blu-ray drive to Sony is probably about $10.
Yeah, and say like,
and they'll sell that. They'll sell it for 40 quid with a $10 license attached to it. So that's now 50 quid. So if you're thinking the Blu-ray version is going to be 50 quid more expensive because of the Blu-ray, you're seriously forgetting who invented the CD drive. I'm not saying it won't be 50 quid or more than 50 quid cheaper, but that's not. It won't be because of the lack of the Blu-ray drive.
That's like Microsoft though; they have to pay Sony a license just to use.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, they're the one who's pushing for the Blu-ray, and it's like Sony's like, well, you don't really need to have. You can have the digital version or the 4K Blu-ray version. It's up to you, and it's like, wait, you should. I don't know. For me, I don't like digital. I see the benefits. I do see the benefits because I had Crackdown.
You have kids now.
I had.
Wait till you get them covered in peanut butter and bananas and eaten. Or in fact, I just watched a video today of someone having to use tweezers to remove 4 or 5 DVDs from their slot loading PS4.
Well, they need to be. They need to sort themselves out and try and store their physical media safely away from kids.
Well, you know, you say that in 3 years' time when your daughter goes through your games collection.
Wow, she's not going to be able to get into that loft.
Yeah, or spends 500 quid on Angry Birds game thingamajiggies. You know, you don't know you don't know what parenting faux pas is going to happen to you until it's happened.
So there you go. So that's one of the reasons why I would not support digital media, because they have access to buy stuff from. But no, for me, like I do see the benefit of digital media where I had Crackdown. I had a physical copy of Crackdown on the Xbox 360, and you can play it on Xbox One. And I put it in, and I played the game. Awesome, great. And at some point, it became free on the actual Xbox Microsoft Store. So I thought, oh, it says you already own this. Like, it's kind of weird because it's like you own this game, but then I was like, well, you can click it and it's like you can own it digitally.
Yeah.
So I own it now. Like, I only own it, so I don't even need to put the disc in the console. It's like, it's kind of weird because the game was already installed on the console. And then when I went to the store to say, yeah, get this, it's kind of weird. Somehow it must have detected that I have got the physical version and not the digital version. Like, I haven't got, like, from the marketplace or something. So then it just said, so now I don't even have to put the game into the console anymore to play the game. I just click it on my in my library and it just plays, and that is awesome. But I still think, like, in terms of pricing and having competitive pricing, we need physical media. And I think it's like, for games it's okay because there's no like limiting factor yet in terms of, like, if they went down the route where instead of actually downloading the games onto your hard drive or SD card, it would stream you the games. So you
sorry, what do you mean?
So, like, if they said, well, instead of actually downloading the games to your hard drive or SD card, we're actually just going to stream the games to your TV, to your console.
Oh, right. As in they run the game in a data center somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
And for me, so that would be like an inferior version. So it's like watching something on Prime or Netflix. It's very
you got lower bit rate than if you're watching a Blu-ray or something.
At the moment, it's okay, but I don't suspect them doing that because there's no kind of an advantage for them for that. Yeah, I don't know if there is, unless they have, like, they sell game consoles and it just plays, but they would need, like, loads and loads of them everywhere in a data storage. But
yeah, it doesn't help that the latency. Like, I don't know.
That's the way we're going, though, isn't it? That's the way. That's what they want you to do. So then you could. The way Stadia was meant to be is you was going to watch a YouTube video of a game.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then you were going to continue. But you
think about it. You've got your inputs have got to travel however kilometers to your data center, and then the video stream comes back to you. Like, that's just, you'd have like half a second. Well, I don't know, like 300 milliseconds. Like, that's a long time. Like, until we have, like, fiber to the house, I don't see how that would be popular enough to be worth it to game companies to pay for data centers to be everywhere. Like, I know Amazon and Microsoft already have data centers everywhere, but
at least
not close enough that regular copper internet providers are going to be able to make it worthwhile and easy to actually play those games, especially with, do you know what? The only way you could do that is by having a games console that doesn't have Wi-Fi and requires an Ethernet connection as well.
Yeah.
Because, you add a Wi-Fi connection in your house, that's adding like 50 milliseconds latency each way, so that's 100 milliseconds. It's just, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, because, like, the UK broadband scene isn't ready for it, and I think we're a good deal better than most of America, which is probably the primary market.
But that's the way I'm thinking they're heading. It's like something like that. They're thinking, how can we get people's money? How can we get them engaged all the time? How can we just, like, wherever they are, you don't need the games console. But thankfully they haven't done that. They haven't really. They've just given you a digital version of the console and a physical version. But I hope that the digital version doesn't outsell the physical version of it. If it's a lot cheaper, then it might. So I hope they don't look.
But why?
Well,
what do you think is going to happen?
Because it might be a little bit cheaper because they might think, well, we could sell the games on the store like £10-15 a little bit dearer, and so they get.
It's not that they'll sell them dearer; it's that they will sell them at RRP. Whereas if you buy it physically, you can either sell it less than you buy it in for, which is absurd, or you do the more sensible thing, which is to bundle it with something. So Amazon might sell the console with a game which you can't get straight from Microsoft but you can from, say, Currys or something. You know, that kind of thing.
The only thing I can see where this could be a good thing is, you say you've got a PlayStation 5, it's a digital version, and it's selling really well. A lot of people are buying the games off the store, but then Microsoft sees that, and then they try and like have like a little fight. So you might get some good prices on the store. So you might get some like discounts and saying like, "Oh, it's cheaper over here if you get the Xbox version," or no, it's cheaper on the PS5. Who knows? Like you see like Steam, and then you see Epic Game Store doing something like that. But in terms of Epic Game Store, they're just buying the exclusives.
I think it's more likely that they, instead of relying on the purchase of games, they're going to try and... So what you might see is digital edition comes with 3 months worth of PlayStation Now, but the optical version comes with 1 month. So they try and push their games, not the streaming, but the the Game Pass aspect. Where you can download and play whatever game you like for $8.99 a month, £22.
They haven't got anything like that
for 3 months.
I don't think they've got any. All they've got is like.
But they might launch something like that along with the console, they have their version of Game Pass, because that's where not having an optical drive will really come into play.
So that's why Microsoft did a digital console for the Xbox One, because they were like,
like,
people are just going to get Game Pass and that's it, that's sorted. You don't need a physical game, so if you're happy paying this subscription each month, then that's great.
And the difference is that money is going to Microsoft, not the game developers.
Yeah.
Which is good for Microsoft and good for Sony. Because obviously they can sort of services is just getting huge. Like obviously I'm heavily into Apple and all their stuff, and they've just launched their TV service, and less popular their news service. They've got all these ways where they've got a set amount of income every month, and even if their hardware sales fluctuate because the iPhone 12 is a terrible phone, or no one's making any MacBooks because, all the factories are shut down, they know that their 20%, 30% of their income is rock solid because, people are paying for those services, and that's what Microsoft and Sony are probably after.
Yeah, but what do you think to like the companies like CEX and Game, the actual game stores? It'll
be funny if digital only gets super popular. I don't think the companies will shut down, because the market for old retro games is still so huge. Like, even we still buy games for consoles that are 10, 15, 20 years old. So that's what they will focus on, They're already starting to sell more and more hardware, so we're starting to see what they sort of... It looks to me like CX is aware of the future markets, and they're trying to adapt to it before it's too late. I don't know about Game, but I don't really care about Game, to be honest.
The game's pretty expensive as well.
Yeah, it's like, I used to spend a lot of time in Game, but nowadays I just buy directly, or we get games from CX. It's those are the two options, really. Like, we don't go to Game, we don't go to Argos or John Lewis. It's rare that they're going to have a sale on that is unique, because like most sales tend to be at all the retailers or at none of them. So
kind of makes sense as well, because at the moment, because of this lockdown, we're still currently in this lockdown. Hopefully we are out of this lockdown by the time like November, December time. Hopefully we should be. But it kind of makes sense for a digital version in terms of actually people going out and instead of like...
Yeah, not having to worry about buying it in.
Not buying
even
the games.
Getting it shipped. So not everyone wants to handle something that's been held by someone else, depending on how vulnerable they are.
So that kind of makes sense as well. So overall, I think it was a pretty good press conference, and I think Microsoft has got one in July.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was quite good. And as someone who hasn't really paid any attention to the PlayStation much since the original, like, it looks pretty good. And like, if someone was going to offer me one or the other, no money spent, especially if they were going to include all the hardware accessories, the PlayStation 5 is incredibly tempting. Partially out of curiosity from not having had a proper PlayStation system when they were current, ever, really. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Microsoft bring out, what they bring to the table.
They need to bring some games and actually show some gameplay. That's what they need to do. But people have been talking about what Nintendo are gonna do. But
yeah, there was this rumoured Switch Pro for ages, and nothing has come out about it, has it?
But the thing is, for me, I still don't think they need to worry about what Sony and Microsoft are doing. For me, it's just like...
Oh, absolutely not. They are not anywhere.
They're not
like,
involved.
They're not real competitors. They're just... Like, Nintendo games are a different level.
They're just doing their own little thing. And it's just like, don't worry about us. We're doing our own little thing over here. Seeing how this market is like with the handheld market, you know, because their 3D, firstly, like the 3DS was selling more than the actual Wii U, so they were like, oh, why don't we try and make us like a sequel, like the new console, an actual handheld, but make it to like a sequel for the 3DS. But then they're doing their own little thing. But the problem we got now is they just released the Outer Worlds for the Switch.
Really?
Yeah, and it's probably like one of the worst ports like ever seen on the Switch. Well, you got, you know, Ark. Ark is very bad as well, but
Ark is really bad on the PC, so that's not surprising.
Yeah, but the
great game, but it's never. I don't think. I mean, do you know? I don't know if I played it since it was actually released, because I bought it on Steam when it was like all like pre-release and everything. But it never felt like it was a terribly well optimized game. So
I bought that game for like a £5, something silly, like £5-6.
Really?
Yeah, and then like...
I bought it for like 15 or something quid, and I've never actually seen it on sale for anything decent. Like every sale I've seen since then, it's still been quite expensive. It's not a cheap game by any means.
Because I think when I got it, it was still in beta stage.
Yeah,
and it was like a week later, it went to like full retail,
yeah.
And then the price went from like £6 to like 40.
Look at that! It's 45 quid.
Yeah,
45 quid now.
And
price, that's essentially now a game that's like 5 years old.
I don't know why I bought that. I think it might have been Barry pressuring me.
It's a good game, but it's not. Like, the problem with it is obviously it's got long times and everything. It's not an easy game to play if you've got a life to live. So the only way I could play it was to just massively ramp up or massively ramp down the difficulty settings, because there was no way I was going to spend 6 hours taming this giant dinosaur. My life doesn't accommodate that. So it was fun in many aspects, but those sort of the time aspects of it was just frustrating.
But the actual like Switch ports of Ark and the Outer Worlds are just really getting to the point where developers are like, we can't push this system anymore. And
yeah, the system's not good enough.
And
How was Skyrim on it?
Skyrim was pretty good, but I think it was equivalent to like the 360 and the PS3.
Okay.
But that was like, you know, that was 2011. Let's be real. And it's not like the special edition. It's the 360 PS3 version of it. And they've tried to put the Outer Worlds on there, and it's just. But then there's like mod, you know, because the Switch, you can actually mod it and stuff, because some of the early versions you can mod, and basically they've tried to overclock it, and they're like, well, you can overclock it, and it can actually run at a decent frame rate, but then like Yeah, you can run it at a decent frame rate, but you can only probably play it for like an hour. What's the point? The Switch needs a Switch Pro. Like, I'm not saying it needs to compete with the PS5 and Xbox Series X, but if all it's going to be is like current gen ports, and even these current gen ports are not very good at all. Like the Outer Worlds just looks really bad, and there are some good ports. Like I think like the Witcher 3 was a good port, but it's still very, very much downgraded. That's my only worry for like you see the PS5 and it's doing 4K and it's doing ray tracing as well. And the Xbox One Series X is even more powerful. Like they won't be making games for like the PS5 and then making games for the Xbox One Series X and then try and port it over to the Switch. It's just not going to happen.
No.
If they're struggling to port games from the PS4 or Xbox One.
No, but I don't think people are. I don't think too many people are after that, to be honest, are they? Do you have any final thoughts on the PlayStation 5?
It looks good. Looks interesting. The software looks decent. I'm not sure about the hardware. I'm not sure about the price. They should have probably revealed it and just got it over and done with. You know, just give us the bad news. It's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And probably even the Xbox One Series X is going to cost a lot of money. It's just the way it is. It's just how much these things are going to cost. But yeah.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, go on.
Why is the PS5 so much harder to say than all the other ones? I've just been struggling with it. I don't know why.
I don't know.
PS4, PS3, that's all fine, but PS5, there's just something about it. Maybe I don't know if it just because it's new or something, but
yeah, you probably just get used to it. But for me, like PS4, it just comes into my head the console. PS5, nothing's there yet. I'm just looking at the PS5 now, just some screenshots, and maybe if I had it in front of me but yeah, no, I enjoyed the press conference. Hopefully, we get to see more of the console and find out the UI, the operating system.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking into. That's what I'm probably looking more forward to. I know that sounds really weird, but I kind of want to know more about the console itself. So I think we'll look forward to, when did you say, July, the Xbox One Series X reveal. See what comes with that, and I guess we'll talk about that one.
Yes, we will.